What's happening?
Oh boy. Those moments where you're like, this doesn't hurt. Like, this hurts. This is pain. But I can handle pain, and yet you're like, can I?
That was a tough one.
Did you
Trying to
just
light
burn
the
your
low
finger?
candle,
Oh boy.
right? And then, like,
The fact that you light a candle for these, but you go like this, I mean, I don't have to tell you.
oh man, pain.
Okay, wait.
Things are going well.
So the last time we were on the phone, I don't know if you could tell, but Louis, my son, was really on one and was just needing so much help with homework. But like, it's just to be together. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, you don't need me for this. Anyway, so he's harassing me, following me like a stalker on this phone call with you.
I remember.
Yes. And I'm like, always like, can you not have my phone calls be absolute chaos? Like, we've been working on this for 11 years.
Okay.
Remember how I said, did you light your hair on fire?
Yeah, I recall.
Okay. I get off the phone. There is clearly like a full head of hair has been lit on fire. Like, there's like that smell. And I can't figure out what it is. The cat had lit itself on fire. So imagine that visual. Like, I'm just trying to have a composed conversation. I have this little twerp following me around. A fucking cat is running behind me, like fully engulfed in flames. I found the entire side of Ralph had just totally burnt off and singed.
Who put it out? Like, why is he alive? What's happening?
I guess he figured it out.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Good on you, Ralph.
I know. Who knew he had it in him?
And the kids, no one knew anything about it.
No, because Cecilia was in her room. Louis was following me around. And then, that's the beauty of the visual. It's just Ralph in the back like, help.
Just a cat on fire.
Cat on fire. That could have ended so badly.
Yeah. I mean, if it freaked out and then ran, I mean.
No, and hair's so flammable and it's a giant puffball of a cat.
That's what I mean. The whole thing could have been just up in flames.
And that's what I love. I'm like, can everyone just not be chaotic for 10 minutes? And it's like everyone was at their worst.
The cat catches itself on fire. Okay.
I know. Guy, all he does is sleep. The one time he decides to move around.
That'll teach him.
Yeah.
He'd be like, I'm just going to.
Oh my gosh.
Talking about on fire.
Can't wait for this transition.
I think this episode was on fire.
Aye.
No. Disturbing behavior.
Hi, I'm Brendan Fehr.
And I'm Majandra Delfino. A decade or two ago,
Closer to 3, really.
a while back, we starred in the cult hit WB show Roswell.
And while we are in fact ex-co-stars, we are also actual exes. In real life.
Boyfriend and girlfriend exes.
Unnecessary clarification. But welcome to the X-Files, where we analyze all things Roswell. Episodes, co-stars, guest stars, and all the goings-on in front of the camera and behind the scenes.
In our probe, we may or may not agree, we may or may not get along, but if our history is any indication, we will most certainly dig up old stuff from the past and throw down. With guests, old and new, weighing in on who was right and who was wrong.
Oh, if we remember it, we're going to talk about it.
And if we don't remember, it's all good, because I kept my teenage diary to cross-reference, corroborate, confirm.
Wait, what?
Correct. So be prepared to pick a side.
Your actual diary, like for real.
Having a change of heart?
More like a change of underwear.
Welcome
To the X-Files.
February 5th, 2001. Written by Ronald D. Moore. Directed by James Whitmore Jr. We got Desmond as Brody. We got Allison as Laurie. We got Jeremy Davidson as Grant Sorensen. Diane Farr as Amy. Erica Gimple as Agent Duff. Devin Gummersall as Sean DeLuca. Heidi Swedberg as Meredith Dupree. Dennis Christopher as Bobby Dupree. Rosanna Porter as Carmen. And Michael and Maria rescue Laurie and take her to her grandfather's hometown in Tucson, Arizona, aka Calabasas.
Oh, is that where that was?
That was, yeah, that's where that was. In Roswell, Liz, Isabelle, and Michael investigate that's wrong. That should be Liz, Isabelle, and Max investigate the strange crystal while Jim Valenti and Agent Duff look for Laurie's kidnapper. Robin. That's the first. It's a nod to Nutter's 1998 film Disturbing Behavior, taking this concept from the Stepford Wives, putting it into high school. The film follows a new kid in town who befriends two of the less desirable teens, then uncovers the secret as to why many of the kids are disturbingly perfect. Oh, that's Disturbing Behavior. I was like, that is not.
Also, I was like, I don't remember the movie, but it'll come back to me.
Yeah, and I was like, and why are you calling me and Majandra the less desirable teens? I was like,
wouldn't be the first time.
Wouldn't be. Yeah. In the Roswell episode, Grant Sorensen appears to switch personalities. Okay. So it's the whole, obviously, we're in the Hybrid Chronicles, and we're doing this one in order because it's worked out perfectly. Don't expect this to happen.
Do not.
Do not. I shaved today for the first time a little bit.
Don't expect that either.
No.
No.
Yes, Disturbing Behavior. I guess it's a nod. I mean.
Now, Brendan, I like the tie to Disturbing Behavior of David Nutter's Disturbing Behavior because you were in Disturbing Behavior.
Yeah, that's how I think that's really, if I hadn't had done that movie, I don't think I would be Michael Garrett.
Exactly.
Hilariously enough.
Yeah.
Nutter, that was a big movie casting in Vancouver. Ultimately, it was James Marsden and Katie Holmes. And I was going out for the James Marsden role. It was massive amounts of casting up there. That's where they were going to shoot it, so they needed all the local kids and everything else. So it was like just me and all my buddies. Like everyone who I auditioned with in that year and a little bit in Vancouver were all in this movie.
Oh.
And we all auditioned, for the big roles, and then they just would put us in as, random high school kids in this, that, and the other thing in the movie. And I guess I stuck out in Nutter's mind because, as we've said before, he had done X-Files, come from X-Files, and I reminded him of Duchovny. And so I had a real look. And he was really appreciative of, he kind of recognized all the talent that was up there. It was already pretty established as a place for, for movies and television to go. It was more television than film. And I stuck in his brain. And then when Roswell came around, he specifically, I guess, told Fox, that Vancouver was kind of this treasure trove of great talent and held sessions up there. And so ultimately, that's where I first auditioned for Roswell and then flew down to LA. And that's kind of the short version of the story. Was that short? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, short for you,
Not bad. I'm learning.
Bit by bit.
So I don't know how this is, the title's an homage. But it's really not.
In Crash Into Me, the World of Roswell, because I was same thing. I was like, wait, why? Whose behavior is perfect? And it's what I believe is the parallel is the Dupree family's sort of forward-facing thing of like everything's fine, but that didn't seem to me Stepfordy.
Those two were a trip.
Oh my goodness, such a trip! And also the male boots. Dupree, Dennis Christopher, I was like, I know him.
He looks, I feel like when I watched it yesterday, I was just like, who is this guy? Because I know he's got to be like, I was like, oh, he's super famous, or he's done a bunch of stuff.
He's got to be dead by now. That's always our.
That's our go-to. Yeah. Oh, he's going to be dead by now.
But yeah,
do we know who he is or what he's done?
Did we look? Chariots of Fire, all these things. But he was in Django Unchained, I think. But meaning it isn't someone I know. It's just like, I think someone who maybe on set we really spoke to him a lot or got a kick out of him or something because his face is burned in my brain.
Yeah, and his whole vibe was just. Yeah, it was great. The fucking boots killed me every time. Oh. He just leaned right into it, too.
It's so funny, too, because they are a couple, right? Or were they a brother and sister?
they got real brother and sister vibes, but no, they're a couple.
Interesting, because it's like they both seem like they had such ownership and like connection to Grandpa Dupree that they seemed like his grandkids, you know? So, but someone had to have married
let's
in.
double check on that. Oh, no. They're the self-serving children of Laurie's grandfather. They are his children.
Amazing.
They had that vibe,
What
but
a
they also
dream.
have like, there is like an incestuous vibe there too. Like, what are these two doing in this big house?
Well, he
all
seemed
by themselves.
kind of like your fun gay brother. Not yours, that you know of. But like, do you know
I
what I
might
mean?
have one out there. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all might.
It's entirely possible.
But yeah, so if that is the case, that actually would be so fun.
Yeah, it was great.
Just you and your best friend brother going to these ridiculous events and living the life of, you know, luxury. But yeah, that was a fun. I remember that house. Like, I just remember all of it so well.
Yeah.
That whole storyline I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think, like we've said in previous episodes, I think we're finding our footing. Like, this is really great. We got the whole alien stuff, but there's a bunch of relationship stuff happening at the same time. It was really well written. There's a lot of great one-liners in the whole thing. This is up there. I wonder, what is it on IMDb? Let's see. We haven't checked out a IMDb score in a little bit. You can talk while I do this, so that we're.
I never check the score. Never.
I know. I do.
My own rebellion towards IMDb, who I have no problems with.
I just want to see where it rates as a general episode guide. 7.3.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah, I think this was great. You know, and this obviously is the first of a two-parter, and then we get into how the other half lives is next, and then one we've already done, which is Viva Las Vegas, where I got to get rid of this money that he's offered me.
Oh, look at that! It's all coming together.
Yeah, look at that.
Also, just did Michael not know how to launder money? Anyway.
No, he had to get rid of it anyways.
All right. My first note, I'm cold and it's affecting my speech. Like, you know when you go through... And that was my initial feeling. And then immediately you go, I finally found a family member. And it just was very finally found a family member. Like, we were both cold. And then I wrote, let's be honest, Michael and Maria boned on that roof. That was my feeling.
Yeah. I mean, probably a finger job for sure.
Unbelievable. Insane.
Totally.
Poor Michael gets nothing.
That's one of the best opening shots of the series, though. Like crawling its way up that roof and finding us through. This was really well directed. James Whitmore Jr. And this might be when it did arrive. When that camera move finally arrives on us, this hair of yours is a real Dolly Parton tribute.
Is that my hair? No. So many pieces of hair in there.
So, I mean, I was waiting
Why? Also, to get my hair to curl, to be that many curls, is so much work. Why?
So much work. It was pretty wild. Like a true lion's mane, like out of a cartoon type thing. Like a real Care Bear. You know, remember when they brought in the lions?
I was just telling my kids
animals
about that. I was like, that was mind-blowing at the time.
Oh. What other characters were there? Lionheart, whatever.
Like, remember, they find them and it's the little monkey in the tree. And you're like, what? And then suddenly you start to meet all the animals. And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
Forest of Feelings.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yep. I can sing the song to you, too, if you'd like it.
Could you?
Forest of Feelings. Okay. That's one of those movies where they hire children, obviously, to play the parts, and then they didn't hire anyone that could sing. So it's these kids, and it's terrible, Brendan. They are so off key, but it's actually really sweet.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, like it's just like, oh, this is like what kids can sound like, and it's actually really sweet. But whoo, I wrote real quick. Was that Hanson wrestling her when they like start to wrestle Laurie right when we're watching? I thought I saw Hanson. I got so excited that he had it in him, but it might not be him. I wrote, was that Hanson? Good on ya. But I don't know that it was him.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My note about you was about the hair.
Oh.
Dolly Parton without the tits.
Sounds about right. You know what? I feel like that's a perfect segue into my journal entry.
Okay.
Because there is one. You break up with me because you said you had to be with someone with big tits.
No,
I'm just kidding.
But also there was a part of me
You're like,
that went,
no.
it's not entirely.
You're like, no, I would never admit that.
I thought it all the time, but I would never say it out loud.
I would never tell you that.
I'd find another reason to break up with you. and go
Well,
find
it is a
someone with
breakup.
big tits.
Okay, ready? It says December. Because, right, 2 months earlier, that's what I'm assuming. We always have to make this math ourselves. Brendan wants a break because he says I expect too much from boyfriends because he ignores me when we're with other people, but then gets upset when I'm not around. And that's it. It's one sentence. And then before that,
The holidays, they're always tough.
and before that is October, and I break up with you. Yeah.
After around my birthday.
Yeah, it seems you said something really mean. Hold on, it's October 4th. So, although the October 4th one is in pencil, okay? And then the next page, which I thought was a continuation, is in pen. So maybe it wasn't the right. The way that I was not detail oriented and added.
You're not supposed to be detail oriented in your journal.
But you're supposed to write the date, right? Isn't that always like what you see? Like, Dear Diary, December 4th.
Yeah, I guess the date to do it, but sometimes it's just like to get stuff out. You don't really expect to necessarily go back to it, especially 25 years later.
Okay, well, this one that apparently was before you broke up with me, I wrote, I broke up with him and I love him so much. So, you know. Ugh, it's so embarrassing. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, you broke up with me because what I like is I expect too much. First of all, it says I expect too much T-O instead of T-O-O. From boyfriends, like plural, because I've had so many. Because he ignores me when we're with other people.
Yeah, I thought there was
But then gets upset that I'm not around. So it's like you wanted me around, but just kind of like in the background.
I do. Yeah, I remember feeling where I didn't feel like I could go do things with other people when you were there. Like when it was me and you, I felt like I didn't have permission to go hang out with other people, like leave my girlfriend to go do her thing.
Right.
And
but
so,
then why'd you want me coming with you? According to this. But then gets upset.
Well, no, then when there was no one there, then obviously I'd probably want you around. It's just, I'm just a dumb boy. A dumb boy. What do you want?
Yeah.
A dumb boy.
Dumb boy.
Dumb boy.
Dumb boy. Dumb boy.
He wants his cake and eat it too. It clearly wants a girlfriend, but not ready for it. You know what I mean? Not ready entirely for that, I guess, that commitment. I guess I wanted an out when I wanted an out.
Yeah, but I don't really remember. Like, I remember we'd hang out with other people, but it was mostly like guys. So it's like, that's me expecting me to be like one of the dudes.
Right. Which you're very good at.
Sure, but it's like, okay, then if I'm one of the dudes, then you can't expect this guy to be all like lovey-dovey in front of his guy friends. That's embarrassing. But I think I did because I was a little twerp. You're just little. You think, it's all romance.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, though.
Listen, both of us. Oh, fuck. We've gotten it together. Maybe. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Yeah, our relationship when we're in the car and you're like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. And like told you not to say anything. I was like, that was our relationship. I told you not to say anything. It's just like.
No, she holds helping him out as a chit to get him to commit. Like, I wouldn't be here after she's already there. So it's like, what is he going to kick her out of the car?
To commit.
And then I wrote here, too legit to quit.
There you go.
So yeah, we're all on board.
We're all over it. And by the way, we don't have a guest this episode. It's just us. We're just riffing on this one. We thought it would be fun. This is, again, we've said it in earlier podcasts, but this is kind of the launch or part of the inspiration for Baron and Toluca are these, these two kind of dummies, ding-dongs, playing detective for a little while together, kind of on their own little storyline. And
that is, when I think back on what sort of like stuck with me during Roswell, and especially about Michael and Maria, was that they had this, whether they wanted to or not, they had to investigate. From day one, they were always in some sort of investigative situation together. And while they're like questionable as far as their skill, at the same time, they would pull it off. And I find that to be so delightful that, yeah, like that's what I remember as far as what they were up to the most. Yes, they're always like figuring out their messy emotions, but it was detective work.
Right. And figuring out those emotions, dealing with like our relationship in the midst of that, like arguing, on that roof or in the car or, 285 South.
Exactly.
We get all these awesome little establishments like Aladdin's Room and then the Greasy Spoon Diner, in this one. I just always, they put us in a lot of these kind of great places where.
They really did.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was, so we just thought we'd kind of riff on that because this does feel like the beginning of kind of our ding dong era.
Right.
Of sorts to me.
But we always, if you think about it, 285 South, there's the episode where we're like in the motel room and we do the thing with the pad back in like duck butt hair days. Like we've always had to, or Michael and Maria always had to kind of step up and do that for better or worse together, which only adds comedy to it and strife.
Yeah. And it felt like whenever, and this was it felt like whenever Max and Isabelle were involved in the investigation, it always was a more serious tone, right? That was the more dramatic stuff. So you didn't get, as Busfield said in the earlier, we didn't get to kind of dumb ourselves down because in that situation, you're not dealing with the relationship aspect. You're dealing with, the dangers and the high stakes of, being an alien and being found out and all that stuff. But when it was just me and you, Michael and Maria, they were so underdeveloped in this relationship that that the little, I don't know if it was pettiness, but it was, the pettiness and or the immaturity would always kind of rise to the top of their inadequacy. And then it becomes more fun. So when they're left to their own devices, we get a little bit of that was added or shown
right.
more so than we were in a big group setting, obviously.
And I think too, it's what at the end of the day, they did always sort of pull it off, which is so funny, especially Maria, in the sense that Michael, of course, has every reason to be a serious person about everything, but she kind of doesn't. And yet she would always sort of step up and either give the person a talking to or just something where you're like, oh, it was very much like, oh, this is the child of Amy DeLuca, despite the like silliness. And there's just something so fun about that back and forth where you're like, oh, God, they're going to blow this whole thing up. And instead they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you do keep Michael on the straight and narrow. What episode was it? One of during the Skins, the Michael worshiper,
Yeah.
Where you're just like, hey, Michael.
Can you hear me over the sound of your, yeah.
And then this one with Laurie where you tell me I need to make an emotional, it's impossible, but you need to make an emotional connection. You give him this like pep talk, which you're also kind of getting some digs in there as well, which, for
the
fun,
organ that stands in the place of your heart or whatever the line is. Yeah,
whatever organ is in the place of your heart. Exactly.
Yeah.
So well written. And then, so you give him a talk there and So you're always encouraging in these talks, even though there's that, there's the sarcasm and, and everything else getting in your little, jabs in terms of, behavior. I don't want to say jabs.
No, it's true. But she's always going to have like sort of insert herself. It's funny because she inserts herself so much, but then she can be like incredibly selfless and in such wide, like broad. I mean, some of the selfishness is hilarious where you're like, oh my goodness, like this is not the time to bring this up or to make that phone call or whatever. But what's funny is I think what she does is she really, like, out of everyone in investigation mode, she very much brings the like human aspect, the understanding of just like humanity, more so than Liz.
You've also thought it through, like when you tell Laurie, like, let her go to the bathroom, we're not doing this, not going to hold your hand, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, Mexico's that way, and then you obviously trick her, whatever. You're like, Mexico's that way. So yeah, Maria's very good at
like reading people.
Yeah, I think so. Like knew she was going to run, so send her in the wrong direction.
Right.
And also there is that selfishness of, maybe we'll just, and then let her run. We'll have our snack and we'll catch her in a little bit.
So motivated by food. Did you see too at that roadside cafe, which by the way looked delicious, the first like establishing shot is in El Camino. I was so excited. But yeah, the Maria speaking like girl to girl to Laurie was very funny to me. But I didn't see that coming. I was like, okay, she's not going to run. And then I was like, oh, she did run.
I know that's the thing. Did you know, like Michael, and that's where, I don't know where, Michael knew she was going to run and you probably did too. And right? You knew she was going to leave.
I guess it's just.
That's why you said the Mexico thing?
Yeah, no, I know. Just as an adult, you're like, where do you think you're going? Like, what's your plan, Laurie?
Walking by the side of the road. Like, this is not good for you.
And it's just confusing. Like, Grandpa was this very great comfort, and this man looks like Grandpa, but that's not comforting. I don't know. I found that to be a little confusing, but it was very, very funny to me where she just kind of lays it out, Maria.
Yeah, and yelling at someone to trust them. Getting angry at them is probably when Michael's yelling at her through the car door.
Totally.
It's like, this is not the way, dude. Like, you do not have the tools for this, unfortunately. Yeah. Trust me, just getting mad at someone yelling at them to trust you is...
I'm nice, okay? Yeah, exactly.
I'll never abandon you, you dummy. Yeah. Like, just getting so upset. Yeah. All right. Not the way to get through to some people.
Yeah.
Especially this... the trauma is just Allison Lang. It just shows all over her face, right? Like this from being in a psych ward in Pinecrest, I believe it is, and everything else. And it's like, no, you have to make that emotional connection. That's where Maria really excelled.
Yeah, but it's funny because she was also, that was a kind of threatening way to approach it too. It wasn't like nurturing. It wasn't like, here, I've got you, girl. Like, let me give you a hug. She's like, listen, bitch.
Exactly. I'm not
Mexico
gonna hold your hand,
is this way. Pee-pee. Yeah, exactly. I ordered extra crispy bacon. Don't fuck this up. But I wrote here, I loved when Amy has the Long Johns. Mm-hmm. It reminded me of Brokeback Mountain, where she's like, catch me a fish, Ennis, or whatever his name is, and she checks his rod, the fishing rod, and the reel. And it still has like the note on it, so it shows he never used it while on the fishing trip, quote unquote, with his buddy.
Oh.
Just the evidence of an item, meaning the person couldn't possibly travel somewhere cold because she didn't bring her Long Johns, I thought was great.
I never saw Brokeback Mountain.
Worried you'd feel too much.
The feelings would be too big.
Too big. Yeah.
Yeah, her Sedona remark, like stoned and have sex in Sedona, is just so like right on brand.
Yes.
With that whole vibe and like Sedona vibe.
And that saying to your mom, like, we're being free spirits is something that, is like considered a good idea or endorsed by your mother.
Right. And does she not think, and maybe we haven't, have we not?
Well, that's
been intimate with each other. She's like, if you have sex with them.
I know. Yeah. That happens later. Like, yeah. When she says, Michael, if you have sex with my daughter, I'll hunt you down and kill you like the mangy dog that you are.
Yeah, cousin.
My first note was, no one understands Michael. Like, why are you a mangy dog? And then I wrote, also, aren't they always effing? Thought we were always boning.
I mean, listen, yeah, you said it like
I thought
on
that
the
was
rooftop.
like the glue of our that was the thing that held us together.
Kept us together.
That's what I thought.
We're so emotionally unstable that we're just going back to each other for.
Yeah. But now to know that maybe that's not the case,
it's a weirdly, if it just sits there on paper,
right?
It doesn't have. You wouldn't necessarily view it or read it as being like an emotional, kind of a compelling line. But when Laurie Dupree says, like, "You're not my grandpa, are you?" Which seems like when I'm trying to make that connection to her.
Yeah. No, I feel like I had a note. I'm like trying to find it.
It was just very weirdly emotional, like for her, like having to come to terms with this isn't who he's not who she thought he was. It kind of restarts her journey. Like, it feels like, I guess it didn't get anywhere. I don't know. It was a weirdly, I just wrote a weirdly emotional line when she said it. Because on the page, like, "You're not my grandpa, are you?" It doesn't really hold anything. And talking about grandpas is kind of weird. I don't know. I just, it was a really well delivered line. It was well written, I think. And it's so simple that I think maybe if I was writing it, I would try to have maybe added to that, like make it emotional.
Right.
And that's why I don't write these things. And it was really well delivered, and it was her coming to terms with something like, oh wow, this isn't.
Yeah,
I didn't find what I wanted to find.
Yeah, I wrote, I love Maria watching Michael emote. She's just standing there watching you guys. It was so strange. Maria, she was like, while you're giving your plea. And then I wrote also loyal ? Because Michael says he's loyal. And
I am loyal.
I know, I'm kidding. And then I wrote, "You're not my grandpa, are you?" I ask that weekly. It's just so strange. Like, you're not. But then later
it clearly
on,
stood out, the line.
Oh yeah.
Since you wrote something about it as well.
Oh yeah. My next note after that is the blue gook stuff.
Gandarium.
Yeah, I wrote Mogwai. Why? Why is it a Mogwai? I said it seemed friendly though, but why was it a Mogwai?
I don't know. Why did you write that?
I don't know.
It could turn evil. It seems like it's a nice crystal, but then it can turn into a gremlin.
Well, like it goes onto his hand.
Yeah.
I think maybe it just made cute sounds.
He traps it in that in the glass lid that he just happens to have there.
Yeah, and really panics. And I thought it was being kind of sweet, but no.
Oh, just hugging his hand.
Yeah, it was just like, like, "I'll keep you warm." That was my take. That's why I wouldn't survive these circumstances. But it seemed friendly.
And Grant Sorenstam, so they have him shave. We've been on Grant for a couple episodes now. How old he looks. Totally different looking guy at this point. Like when he first shows up, I was just like, oh, they had him shave. And he does look our age now.
Yes.
It was that 5 o'clock shadow that was really doing some heavy lifting for him that made him 20 years older. And he shaves. And he's got this beautiful face, and he looks like he's one of us.
Listen, beautiful face.
Must have been a Studio Network note for sure, to be like, this guy's looking too old.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got too much facial hair.
And Katie's 18 in this?
You know what it was? You had a meltdown because you couldn't grow a beard. So they had to send a note on the old guest star.
I was
reoccurring, and say,
I was like, he's
not till Brendan can. What's that?
And I was like, no one has a beard on this until I get one.
Exactly. I wrote, weirdly, speaking of beards, Maria DeLuca's dad should have been played by Antonio Banderas. Because they mentioned him, and I was like, oh, right, she has a dad. And then I wrote, Sean's instinct to prove that he's not a shady character is to beat Liz up with pillows, ? Oh.
He calls me.
Yeah, then my note, yeah. Sorensen is so cute with the puffy lips and the big brows and the curly hair. I should have been nicer to him. And then I wrote, oh, werewolf, never mind. Because he like had that outburst where he seemed like a werewolf.
Where he attacks Bill.
Yeah, so I really vacillated quickly on him.
And the fact that Bill, very dark place, obviously lost his job. There's a $15 million lawsuit. But I'm watching this episode. And I'm like, you can't have a chop saw in your living room, Bill.
I thought you were going to say chop salad. I said you can have one whenever. Yeah.
Really?
By the way, yes. This
like
is something I'm dealing with now.
You have to go in the garage or in the front yard or in your driveway.
Unless he wants to die.
You cannot. This is sawdust everywhere. They got beautiful burgundy carpet that's ruined. That's never going to be... It's almost unsalvageable at this point. Bill, what are you doing? Like I do floors now, and I cut stuff. We are always, sawing stuff and chop saw and multi-tools and Dremels and all that stuff, and the mess it makes. And this guy's just doing it in this living room. Nothing is plasticed off, and he's lathing in his living room, making legs for tables.
I know, and I gotta say, as a person who struggles with doing these things outside when it's really cold, when it's winter, I was like, it's not even fucking winter for this guy. Why is he doing this indoors?
You're in New Mexico, dude. You're in Roswell.
It gets cold in New Mexico, but that wasn't a coldy time.
Yeah, I just thought it was.
No.
I didn't. Chop saw in the living room was that's how you know he was in a dark place. It didn't matter to him.
He wanted to turn his house into one of those places with like the peanuts and the sawdust on the floor.
Right.
It was intentional.
That's
so weird. I know.
What happened to those places? Do they exist anymore?
I feel like they do.
And what made that a thing? There's got to be a lawsuit.
Well, it's very southern,
slip on those?
right? Because it's got like that saloon,
I guess.
whatever, it's old south, definitely around, but a little hokey now that we know better. No?
Yeah, but you're just throwing peanuts on the ground.
I wonder if it's a peanut allergy situation too.
Well,
please don't come in if you even suspect you have an allergy. Yeah, that was very interesting. I had the same thing about Bill where I was like, oh, Bill, just go for it in the living room.
I mean, yeah. And what did he clear out for that? Like, I don't know. Yeah, he's clearly going through something.
Yeah.
Obviously. And then we've touched on it, but this Diane Farr, real mama bear vibe.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think that's where Maria gets it, right? When she keeps Michael, you can see that relationship. You can see that parental kind of guidance rubbing off on Maria in terms of you lay down the law. You guys lay down the law in a very similar way.
Right.
Someone to...
I know, which I thought was so interesting. That, by the way, what a testament to good writing, because it's not like Diane and I were rehearsing and figuring out a way to sort of overlap in that way. And yet I feel like the overlaps are so clear now where I'm like, oh, that's really impressive. Not on our part, or maybe Diane's. Maybe she was watching and paying attention, but it really it's so aligned in so many instances that I thought, wow, that's...
Yeah, you guys feel like a real mother-daughter. Like you can see it. You can feel it. You can hear it.
Like these people live really together. I know. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote the mansion. I remember it so well, that giant home.
Calabasas.
Yeah.
Very windy. I was not happy. I remember like the first opening shot when we arrived, like the wind is howling. And you know how I am with my hair. And I was just like, we should not shoot today. we should change this to another day. This is going to blow my hair all around.
Oh my goodness. I love it. That is so, yeah. I wrote, this is when we approach the mansion. I go, there's Michael again, walking forward, holding hands with some blonde, expecting Maria to follow. He'll always find a loophole. And then So what I love is this whole time we're going through the ups and downs of Laurie. Is she crazy? She's not actually. Oh my gosh, this is starting to make more sense. Like you're getting a little bit more insight. And then she goes, where's my grandfather? And they're like, he's been dead for 7 years. I wrote, oh, Laurie, like I just believed you. And it turns out he's been dead
you were
for
at
7
his
years.
funeral, and it's like,
I was like, oh God,
you had us. You were, yeah, we were believing everything. You were bringing us onto your side, and then you.
Yeah, forgot he died for 7 years. It had a very like, oh, we made the trip for nothing.
Totally.
Yeah.
But a brother and sister living together though is weird. Getting back on that.
Yeah,
I would live with my sister though.
I think it's every parent's dream.
But they don't even. It's not right. But there's no parent there to. There's no parent there to.
No, but I think your hope is that your kids will always be like best friends forever, and then you never have to meet the obnoxious people that they marry. You know?
Right, but I could live with my sister, especially in a house that big, because you could almost never see each other. But and you would have your own spaces. But it is a little bit of a. It does have that incestuous vibe.
Yeah, it's funny.
Why was that so hard to
did
say?
And didn't because he played it as if he wasn't attracted to women, So it didn't. But yeah,
not enough. Not enough to be certain. You know what I mean? Where it was like which gives him a mysteriousness. Which, I mean, it's just a great character.
Totally adds to the creepiness of the whole thing.
Like the boots too, like the polo stuff. Obviously, kind of gives away a little bit of that feminine vibe.
And he doesn't play polo.
But it's also a polo.
Ride.
That's also a polo uniform.
Right.
So it's like
right.
Yeah.
But how much is he playing?
I wonder if he brought that to it or
It's
that was
so
like on
good.
the page.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved those two so much more this time than I remember in person. I think maybe I didn't understand how it was going to land.
She also looked like someone, like I was looking forward to reading their names from the Crash Into Me because I was like, who are these? Like it's going to be a name and I'm going to go, oh shit, that's of course. And I didn't, again, Christopher Dennis, whatever his name is. What is it?
Mm-hmm. Christopher Dennis?
Dennis Christopher and
is it Christopher Dennis or
Heidi Swedberg.
Heidi, say the last name?
Swedberg?
Interesting.
And they just had this vibe of like, why? Yes, of course. Yes, these are actors and people, and that doesn't make any sense. Of course, they're people, but she was on Seinfeld, Galaxy Quest. She just had a real interesting look. Those are the characters. We don't have those characters these days, right? Everyone's got to be like an A-list star, and even the supporting people are A-list. Now, back in the day, they were only, that's how you cut your teeth, was on Little Independence, right, and all that stuff. And then you had these great character actors, always, like a J.T. Walsh and all these.
They're going to say JTT. Oh,
no. And they kind of just don't exist anymore. You don't have these great character actors. It's you're either like an A-list star or that's it. Like there is no like sub-tier anymore. You're just a fucking loser. And back in the day, there was just so many of them, and roles were written for them, and they weren't given out to a big. You could.
Yeah, they weren't always trying like the stunt casting thing.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, they cast for the character instead of just trying to put a like big name in there.
Right.
I mean, look at animated movies now, like Pixar and all that stuff. Like back in the day, you didn't have famous people doing the voiceovers. You had voiceover artists doing it. People that were really talented.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And now, and not saying that. These A-list stars aren't talented, but now it's like you can't be Joe Schmo and be the lead in an animated movie anymore. And it's like, we're not watching them. We're watching the animation. Like, we've lost our way a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I do think there's something about the 22 episode thing where you can't stunt cast everything because there's so many episodes.
Right.
But we would have our stunts here and there. We had Richard Schiff, right? And
I don't know if that's stunt casting.
Joey Pants. Well, like big people that you're bringing in that you're like, ooh, it's the guy from Memento.
but they are great character. Those are the great character actors.
Right,
I don't think
but they
that
were
is stunt.
well known, you know.
I don't know if Schiff was. I don't know if Richard Schiff was at that moment because he wasn't on West Wing yet. Mm-hmm. Was he?
Yeah, he was. That's my answer. He was already on West Wing.
I don't know if that's so much stunt casting. Like the Backstreet Boy was stunt casting.
Right. I mean stunt casting in the sense of like, let's try to get someone really well known. Not necessarily let's try to get someone that's well known that's bad. I feel like stunt casting could be sort of more of an umbrella term for...
Who else? Who was on our... Who's the other lady that was on our show where you're just like, oh. And what episode is that?
Octavia?
Yeah.
I don't know what episode, but I know. It's like, take me with you, Octavia. Take me with you to these amazing movies and opportunities.
I know. It gives me hope.
Teach me how to act. Going back to the show.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, Maria really needs that money to fix her car. Now. Okay? No one brought that up.
What happened to your car?
Laurie Dupree beat the shit out of it.
Oh, that's right.
Okay? No one thinks, hey.
Well, Katie can apparently fix it.
That's true. That's true.
Which we don't know.
Yeah, by the way.
I mean, okay, so we get confirmation Isabelle is 18 here.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't need a lawyer. So she's
I love
19.
when she goes, I lost my bike that day. Or I lost my bike that week. I was like, that is the greatest thing. It's very Lolita. Like the idea of her with a little bike. Yeah.
Little bike just riding around the neighborhood of the Bell.
Exactly.
Why you ride a bike?
Yeah, like the little pom-poms.
They have Bob the Jeep.
That's what I liked. She's like, I like twirling her hair, like I lost my bike that week. It was great. And then I wrote, obviously this is the scene where they have with Brody. Is it Brody?
Mm-hmm.
I wrote, holy shit, they went flying. Because I did not see that coming. I had to rewind. I was like, am I high? What just happened? And it's like, no, indeed, they went flying.
Yeah.
Just
pretty big.
Huge. And to just kind of get up and be like, ah, la, 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 like just to be fine. She went like 10 feet up in the air and hit the wall.
Yeah, I know. That like comes back to, yeah, the whole, it's pretty aggressive.
It was so crazy.
And we had the ambulance that went down the hill and flipped over. That was a pretty big stunt for, back in the day.
Oh,
TV
yeah.
show. That was good. Yeah. It's just really. So did you like this? Are you liking the Hybrid Chronicle series?
Yeah. I think for me personally, I remember at the time, I felt like there was almost like, let's just say a gangbang of violation happening to our show, the show that we all signed up for, aka what it was like season 1.
But I feel this is it. I think we're back there.
I feel like we were kind of back, but once you sort of soiled it as much as it was hard. It just wasn't really that season 1 delicate balance.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's really hard to do, but I like this because you do have to bring in the sci-fi element, but it's not being done at the expense of the relationships. It's not, but
and felt
it's still grounded, like this Gandarium, right? It's a pollution. It's a I don't know what, I don't even know really what it is. We'll have to do the next episode. But it feels grounded. It doesn't feel big and...
Totally. Like if this had happened right after or in the midst of season 1, I would immediately go to a place, like I'd be coming from a trusting place and I would assume the crystals are going to look right. Later on when we find out what it is, it's going to look right. But so much had happened in between that was really compromised, the sort of sophisticated approach that Kadam's wrote all of this with. I was so skeptical, and then I think with good reason.
Okay.
If I were to be
looking
a
back on
psychic.
it, but looking at it now, like if you would have asked me, and I don't remember a lot of it. Part of it is because I really like what it does. And part of it is being selfish, I think, because I think it's a great storyline for Michael and Maria. Again, sending them off on their own adventure was always fun. You're getting a lot in the episode of, Max, Liz, and Isabelle are back there doing the, figuring out what the Gandarium is. You add, like I said, Amy, you get Grant, you have Bill losing his job. And then this Laurie Dupree is, for me personally, a great way for Michael to be un-Michael, to give him an opportunity to connect with someone in a way that doesn't feel like it's kind of shoehorned in there. It's this kind of natural, fun way of getting to see this side of him. And I thought, there's nothing worse than when they just write a scene. That's why Viva Las Vegas was really hard. I liked the concept of the episode, but I was really worried because Michael had to step outside of himself to go have fun in this casino, and this is not his vibe. And so you always want to keep honest with that character. And it worked. It ended up working in that, which was really great. But this one was just easy. It's the same as Independence Day, where you see that emotional side of him, but it comes around naturally. And this connection with home and Laurie Dupree, and it being a real connect, not being. It's different from the Courtney connection, because there's the potential, I guess, or the threat of the sexuality of it, of him, of her being kind of a third wheel in the Michael Maria triangle of possibly breaking them up. This one was just more pure than that, obviously, being a relative, finding a family member, another family member, which is such a big thing for Michael. So maybe that's why I like it so much. But I really liked, I like this series. I like where it's going.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to rob that team of writers of their ability to sort of humanize everything, no matter what terrible studio notes they got or network notes they got. But it's this thing of the genesis, the foundation of what this show was like this beautiful, layered, nourishing thing, and then the network would come and put this dressing on stuff here and there. And I felt that it undermined so much, and it kind of you'd live or die based on what they insisted on throwing atop all of that. And it really annoyed me. I think that if these writers had been able to, and Kadams had been able to have the world of Roswell live in the sort of artistic direction, integrity of Stranger Things, for instance, that's those worlds would have melded together so well. The alien thing with the teen alienation thing. But instead, it was this beautiful human teen alienation, all the stuff that Jason does so well. And then you'd have this crap CGI thing thrown in here and there. And it was don't do that to his it was come on, don't put a squid that's floating in the air right now. Crystals are real. You don't have to have fake purple crystals popping out of, it was that kind of thing that just killed me.
All right.
Who did that CGI on this? No, but they're under direction to do it a certain way. So that's the thing that would kill
but you got to
me.
understand but it was on film too. It was a different time, much harder to do, much more expensive.
Right.
Obviously.
But there was a ton of things being done at that time that were,
I know, but anyways,
efficiently economical, but yeah, it was it was the danger of dancing with the WB and UPN, dubba dubba dubba. Those are the visuals that they.
Well, I like it. I'm into it. I can see this being, because sometimes I watch an episode, I'm like, oh, would I tell someone to watch it based on this episode, and be like, no. Like, would I want my kid, could I sell this to my kids? A lot of time I think, like, could I, and there's some episodes where I, obviously we've been watching them out of order and things are different now, in terms of, just kind of binge and purge versus waiting that weekly. But these are ones where I think I could stand by and be like, yeah, no, this is a good show. You guys would enjoy this. Agreed.
And what's funny to me is that the same thing that I felt was undermining the integrity of it then is the only thing that's undermining the integrity of it now if I showed it to someone. Those are the moments where I go, ooh, and it's like, yep, that still stands. But yeah, other than that, it's good writing. There's nothing that can take that away, thank goodness.
A lot of great one-liners, well directed. Yeah, the whole thing was very fun. I liked it. I can't wait to see
what
happens.
Next. I'm on the edge of my seat, remembering nothing.
What is it? How the Other Half Lives? Is that exactly what it's called? I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Part 2, How the Other Half Lives. And this is interesting. It's story by Gretchen Berg, Aaron Harberts, Breen Fraser, and a teleplay by Jason Katims and Ron Moore, and then directed by Paul Shapiro.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Who we love.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to, when we get into that one, which we'll talk about, I'll do a little, I don't know why the teleplay. I'll have to read into that.
Yeah. One of the things, just to my last note about disturbing behavior that I liked that Brody, that Desmond, Brody did get abducted. It was such vindication where I was like, yes, he actually did.
100%. And it's so hard to do that whole thing of like snap into a different character and have it like inhabit your body.
Yeah.
That's always just such if you read like a audition for that and you have to like be possessed by something and then have it unpossess you or be taken over by something, you're always just like, what is the in?
Yeah.
And what's the out?
Yeah. Remember how I made you watch The Watcher in the Woods?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like the little girl who, by the way, is a Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, which is so crazy. She grows up to be on a reality show. R.I.P. But that little girl, she, had to do that thing where she's like, not whatever her name is, like not whatever. She's like, Narek, remember?
Yeah.
And it's Karen backwards.
Uh-huh.
He was Larrick.
Nadnerb.
Desmond was Larrick.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was like, Narek, because that's Watching the Winds. So I was like, what is Larrick backwards? Is it Carol?
I guess.
He did a great job. He's so perfect, because it's like, of course, this guy that's so kooky and looks so kooky, he's not going to really be abducted. And it's like, yep.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. No.
He was, because I had to do the movie that me and you did, that's not out yet, Killer Cafe. I had to like re-enter, without giving anything away, re-enter the scene kind of over and over again and like do some sort of a switch thing, blah, blah, blah. And I just remember, like, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I don't know if I pulled it off or not or anything like that, but that was almost the most worrisome thing. How do you get how do you let another thing enter you, and then how do you let it go if you, like I said, if you're being possessed and or whatever the case is. So I thought it was, because there's that easy, like, boom. You know what I mean? Where it's like, there's such a bad cliche way of doing it.
This is how I got into comedy. I was trying to do something seriously. I did it so bad that it was comedic. But it's me, Carol.
Yeah. Right? It's like
totally twitching out.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, thought it was a great episode. Really enjoyed it, and can't wait for next week when we take on How the Other Half Lives.
Me
Looking
too.
forward to my own show.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens next. Better be good fucking CGI, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I mean, to be continued for real. All right.
All right.
Well, great. That was fun.
Everybody had fun.
Everyone had fun. And I guess we'll see you next week on How the Other Half Lives.
Yeah.
The X-Files.
X. If, like us, you loved Roswell and wanted to keep watching the push and pull of Michael and Maria, then check out our show, Baron and Toluca. A brand new story set in a familiar town in New Mexico where a familiar combustible love is still playing out and where paranormal forces still have plans, whether you believe in them or not. Check out the first 2 episodes at www.youtube.com/@xfilespod. That's EXFILESPOD. The X-Files with Majandra Delfino.
And Brendan Fehr is a production of Portholes Inc. Media.
Edited and mixed by Stephen Wells.
The music by Fred Corey.